I've been a truck driver for nearly 15 years, and in 2017 I had an experience that still haunts me. I was on an overnight haul through the Mojave Desert, heading towards Arizona with a load of appliances. The night was pitch black, and my truck's headlights were dim, making it difficult to see the road ahead. It was about an hour before sunrise when I noticed something in the distance, approaching fast. Worried it might be an animal, I slammed on the brakes, bringing my truck to a screeching halt just inches from a car parked in the middle of the road. The car's hazard lights were flashing and the passenger door was wide open. Being someone who's not easily frightened, I was more curious than scared. I thought perhaps someone needed help, so I reversed the truck and pulled over. As I got out and approached the car, the silence of the desert enveloped me, broken only by the faint click of the car's hazards. The vehicle was a new-looking red Ford Fusion, and it was completely empty. My unease grew as I searched the car, finding no one inside. The keys were in the ignition, but the engine was off. I decided to check the trunk, which was locked. After retrieving the keys, I managed to unlock it, only to find it jammed. I eventually got it open by accessing it from the back seat. Inside, I found 3 large garbage bags and a rope. As I was about to investigate further, a loud gunshot echoed through the night, jolting me into action. I dropped the keys, dashed back to my truck, and jumped inside. As I started the engine, I noticed a man standing at the trunk of the car. He was short and stocky, with red hair, wearing overalls and knee-high boots. In one hand, he held a small shovel. In the other, an old hunting rifle. Our eyes locked for a moment, and I saw a look of worry on his face. He dropped the shovel and started waving his hands, shouting something I couldn't make out. I didn't wait to find out what he wanted. I sped away, my heart pounding. After a few minutes, I noticed headlights rapidly approaching in my rearview mirror. The fear I felt was unlike anything I'd experienced before. I called the police, explaining the situation as best I could. The car behind me was honking and trying to force me off the road. Just as I thought he might ram me, flashing police lights appeared ahead. The red car veered off into the desert and disappeared. The officer took my statement but didn't pursue the man, much to my frustration. They promised to follow up, but I never heard anything more. To this day, I have no idea what the man was doing or what was in those garbage bags. The experience left me with an uneasiness about driving through the desert at night. Nothing has ever made me feel more uneasy than that night 4 years ago, and I've been a truck driver for more than 15 years. I was traveling a long distance, a journey I was familiar with, from southern New Jersey to Lafayette, Indiana. It was an exhausting journey, and by the halfway mark, tiredness was really setting in. I made the decision to keep going as I didn't have time to waste, and hoped to finish without stopping for a nap. I discovered that I was out of energy drinks at midnight. My GPS was still indicating an old, seemingly deserted gas station as a service stop, but I followed it out of desperation. I was ready to get the unusual meeting over with, so I visited another store nearby, picked up an energy drink, and walked back to my truck. However, I had a shiver down my spine when I was driving. I saw movement behind the curtain dividing the sleeper cab from the front in the rearview mirror. The air conditioner was off, yet the curtain fluttered a little. I started to perspire a lot on my forehead. In my truck, there was a person. I entered the address of the closest police station into my GPS while trying to maintain my composure. I had never felt 20 minutes so long in my life. My terror was heightened by every sound and minor change in the truck. My head was filled with inquiries. Who might it be? How were they able to enter? I arrived at the police station at last. I leaped out and hurried over to the police, describing the circumstances. They encircled the truck fast, and I'm still not sure what they discovered. 3 of them, a woman and 2 guys, were hunched over at the rear. Their rags and filthy clothes gave them a homeless appearance. Gripping two switchblades, one of the men's eyes darted about with a mixture of menace and desperation. I was deeply shocked by the situation, but the cops managed to take them away. They wouldn't explain their intentions or the reason they were there. The most terrifying aspect was discovering they had been there the entire while I was driving, silent and unseen. Whenever I think back on that evening, I find myself wondering what might have occurred if I hadn't made that stop at the police station. I can't help but tremble at the thought of how near I was to something truly awful. A few years ago, I found myself navigating the desolate highways of North Dakota, pushing through the dead of night to make an early morning delivery in Montana. The vast, flat landscape was monotonous, and exhaustion weighed heavily on me. To stay alert, I relied on a trick a fellow trucker named Tristan had taught me: smelling salts. They were harsh but effective, jolting me awake when the road seemed endless. It was around midnight when something unusual caught my eye, a flash of color against the dark asphalt. As I drew closer, I realized it was a purple dress lying in the middle of the road, soon followed by a pair of shoes scattered further along. My mind, foggy with fatigue, barely registered the oddity of the scene. Without much thought, I pulled over, curiosity piqued by the strange arrangement of clothes. Stepping out of my truck, I felt the chill of the night air and an unsettling silence enveloping me. I approached the dress cautiously, my footsteps echoing eerily in the stillness. Suddenly, I heard a faint crunch from the woods to my right. I froze, my heart pounding. Then another crunch came from the opposite side, as if something or someone was moving through the underbrush. Fear gripped me, and I instinctively backed away, my eyes darting toward the woods. The shadows seemed to shift, hinting at hidden figures, watching my every move. As I turned to rush back to my truck, a piercing scream shattered the night. It was a child's scream, high-pitched and filled with terror. For a split second, I hesitated. The scream tugged at my conscience, compelling me to help. I swung my truck's headlights towards the source of the sound, illuminating the edge of the woods. What I saw sent a chill down my spine. Several figures were crouched among the trees, their faces obscured by the darkness. One of them held a large speaker, from which the chilling cry had emerged. The realization hit me. They were trying to lure me into the woods. My blood ran cold as I scrambled back into my truck, hands shaking as I dialed 911. As I fumbled with my phone, a loud thud reverberated through the cab. Something had struck the side of my truck, cracking the passenger window. Panic surged through me, and I floored the gas pedal, tearing down the highway as fast as my rig could go. The dispatcher's voice crackled in my ear, but I was too shaken to respond coherently. I managed to convey my location and the basics of what had happened. The drive to Montana was a blur, my mind racing with the terrifying possibilities of what might have occurred had I ventured into those woods. The police followed up, but their investigation yielded no answers. The area was remote, and whoever those people were, they had vanished into the night, leaving behind only the remnants of their sinister trap. I never learned what they intended or why they chose me as their target, but the incident left a lasting scar on my psyche. Since that night, I've become hyper-vigilant on the road, especially during night drives. The darkness now holds a menace it never had before, and I know better than to stop for anything that seems out of place. The memory of those shadowy figures and the echo of that false scream haunt me still, a constant reminder of the dangers that lurk in the quiet, lonely stretches of highway.